It's all coming up in sports. We'll be right back right after this. Orioles fans have obviously long waited. The first game at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and while it was a little chilly and the game was by no means an artistic success, it was, all in all, quite a satisfying day for the O's and their fans. Let's go downtown, and as you can see, the new yard's an absolute jewel, but that hadn't exactly been a secret, has it? It's truly a stadium Baltimore and baseball can be proud of, and it seemed fitting that this guy, one of the truly great Orioles, would return for this one. Eddie Murray got a tremendous standing ovation in his first at bat, even though he's now a Met, and then he made it count. Murray gets the first run batted in at the park when this sacrifice fly scores Vince Coleman. The Mets led it 2-0 after one. Then in the sixth, another newly acquired Met, Bobby Bonilla, makes it 3-0 when he scores on this single by Dave Gallagher. Meanwhile, Sid Fernandez was sailing through the O's, taking a no-hitter into the sixth. Here he gets David Segui, but the wheels fell off in a hurry for Fernandez. Sixth-inning Segui again. He spoils the no-hitter and the shutout. Off the glove of David Magadan for a base hit. Leo Gomez comes in to score. It's 3-1. And after a Cal Ripken RBI cut at 3-2, Fernandez is out. Wally Whitehurst on. Glenn Davis greets him with a single, scores Segui. Game tied at 3. And then Magadan a factor again, and in the worst possible way. Chris Hoyle's shot rolls through his legs at third. 2 runs come in to score, and the O's take it 5-3. And it all started when Segui broke up the would-be no-hitter.
Yeah, it's exciting to get the first hit, but starting to get it a little late in the game. We'd like to get it maybe a couple innings earlier.
This time in spring training, when you start trying to go that 6th, 7th, 8th innings, that's when you start struggling and having problems. And no, it didn't surprise me, but you know, that's what spring training's for.
You'll take it, right?
You better believe it.
You better believe it indeed. You know, a ballpark is above all else a place to actually play and watch baseball. In other words, it becomes something of a home to the ball players. And as Max Morgan reports, the Birds, in a massive understatement, are rather pleased with their new home.
Some things seem to never change. Cal Ripken Sr. hitting infield to Cal Jr. But in this case, things did change in a big way. The opening of Oriole Park at Camden Yards. For the O's, it was their first chance to test the ground.
The backroom seems all right. The batter's box is, it's nice and firm. The outdoor grass seems fine. So far, it feels pretty good to me.
Boy, it's a dream park, though. Well, you know a lot. You got to play. You got to at least sound like you know a lot.
That's right. Well, it sounds great. It looks good.
No doubt, Oriole Park at Camden Yards is a sight to behold. All of the Oriole players we've talked to have simply fallen in love with this facility, but for some players, it's even more special to be here.
For a lot of years at Memorial Stadium, they were good years there. That was an old stadium, but the organization, the people of this town deserve this stadium. It's the most beautiful I've ever seen in all of baseball. I've been in both leagues. I've never seen anything like this in my whole life.
But because Oriole Park at Camden Yards is just being broken in, the Birds really don't enjoy the home field advantage.
It's going to take a few weeks for us to be at a home field advantage. I remember when Boston moved into the Dome, they had a few problems with it at first, but now it's really a home field advantage for them, and hopefully the same will happen with us.
And if the enthusiasm of the fans has anything to do with it, it won't take long. At Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Max Morgan, Fox 45, News at 10.
Just an enjoyable day all the way around. Again, the official home opener Monday versus Cleveland. But if you want to jump in the car tomorrow at RFK, they will take on Boston, the Orioles will. So it's a big weekend of Oriole baseball. You know,
good night and a safe weekend.
Good night.
Orioles open their new nest. How did it look? How did they look? We'll preview the 92 birds. The Red Sox are flying their Winter Haven coop. Today was farewell day to Channel Lakes Park. Which rookies will say hello to?
Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman with a familiar face. Certainly if you follow baseball, and that face belongs to Peter Gammons. T-minus 3 days till the beginning of the regular season. We chomping at the bit here?
Finally.
Yes, yes.
Too many exhibition games.
Bring it on, bring it. They're finally moving north, or at least partway, Peter. They play ball in front of a new face today. Oriole Park at Camden Yards made its debut as the Orioles emerged from Florida to play. A team that won't tread there ever unless it's in the World Series, the New York Mets. It brings to mind that trivia question. Who hit the first homer ever in the Houston Astrodome when that 8th wonder of the world opened up? Well, that famous National Leaguer, Mickey Mantle, naturally. The Yankees opened up the dome in an exhibition against the Astros. Who will be the answer to the Oriole Park at Camden Yards trivia questions in years to come? That's why we show you these. And there it is. The new Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Looks new, looks old, looks cold. 48 degrees. And the Orioles take the field in front of 31,000 plus. They decided to sell only about 2/3 of the seats for this game. And El Cid looked good early. Gets Cal Ripken Jr., gets his brother Billy Ripken. El Cid had a no-hitter for 5 1/3. The Mets led it 3-0. But in the 6th inning, you can't keep a good man down, and Rip rips one to left. Brady Bunch Anderson scores. The Mets lead it down to 3-2. Wally Whitehurst is in, facing Chris Hoyles. Ground ball, Dave Magadan, sticky wicket. Ripken scores. Luis Mercedes scores. The Orioles win it, 5-3. Yeah, it's only exhibition, but the footnote will be the Orioles won it 5-3. Mike Flanagan fittingly gets the win, and Eddie Murray, the longtime Oriole, fittingly drives in the first run with a sac fly in the first for the Mets. No homers in this game, so that trivia question will have to wait a few days to be answered. The Freeway Series, the Dodgers and the
The O's were introduced, and the new stadium was open for business.
This is what Baltimore and baseball is all about. God bless Baltimore.
In many ways, it was your average ball game, with fans eating, keeping score, and finding their way around the ballpark to their seats. While most were happy when their seat search ended, not all were. She was issued a ticket for opening day to a seat that doesn't exist. It was here in Section 3 at the end of the first base line. The seat is Section 3, Row T, Seat 18. Well, it ends at 17.
I went down and they said in their computer, yes, there was an 18 seat in that row. I had to bring the supervisor back to prove to them, no, there isn't.
And so, did they give you these seats for the day, or?
No, they're still working on a seat for me for opening day.
Judy is a longtime fan, and we're sure she'll be issued a seat that's actually in the park for opening day. And what about those seats?
There's a lot more leg room here with the seats.
Especially for tall people, I can sit comfortable now.
Definitely closer for tighter in the shoulders.
The men are finding themselves closer to their neighbors in the men's room as well.
They have less urinals in there, and the men are at least 10 to 15 deep, standing in line waiting to go to the bathroom, just like you ladies.
For the most part, the fans we spoke to admire the new stadium a great deal.
I love it. It's beautiful here. I called in sick today, but I shouldn't be on TV.
The new stadium is promised to...
For mufflers, brakes, and shocks, nobody beats Midas. Nobody.
If you're keeping track of such things, as the Twins did last year when they had the best record in spring training and won it all, the Orioles at 17-10 with a couple of days to go, they got some games in Washington, D.C., have the best spring training record of everyone in the American League. The Baltimore Orioles are, frankly, a team that most true baseball fans love to root for. They play in a smaller city, a baseball town all the way, and their old park, Memorial Stadium, was as enjoyable a place to watch a game as there was. Now they play in new digs, which we'll have more on later in this edition of Baseball Tonight. And Peter thinks that the new park will be fun this season because the birds will be fun too.
The Orioles long played in a twilight zone between unconditional devotion and the reality entertainment business. Memorial Stadium was a little neighborhood park where families were raised and players became institutions. But Memorial Stadium is now history, like Earl Weaver's tomato garden. They are now the Baltimore-Washington Beltway Orioles, playing in Orioles Todd Cruz Park at Camden Yards, the best modern ballpark. And even with a Hall of Fame MVP, as well as Cy Old and Cy Clone as links to their past, they are moving into a new era built on their traditional formula, pitching. When the Orioles signed Rick Sutcliffe, it was to do for Mike Mussina and Ben McDonald what Jack Morris did for Kevin Tapani and Scott Erickson, teach the children well. Lo and behold, Sutcliffe is throwing like it's 1984 all over again. As he takes the opening day assignment, he fronts what the Orioles believe is the American League East staff of the 90s. Mike Mussina is absolutely the real thing with his eye-popping fastball and knuckle curve, not to mention poise. Ben McDonald has scars from being rushed to the major leagues too fast, but he has had a great spring, as has Jose Mesa with his 87-mile-an-hour slider, and Bob Milacki is reliable and solid. Remember, they started 1991 with Jeff Ballard, Dave Johnson, and Jeff Robinson in the rotation, which is how they had the worst starting pitching in baseball, 42 and 69, a 5.29 earned run average. 43 times they were behind by 3 or more runs before the 4th inning. Well, this year, they could take a run and a half off that ERA. Another year of that starting pitching, the bullpen would have been located at Johns Hopkins. They led the majors with 558 innings. The fact that they had a 345 earned run average saved a lot of embarrassment. Greg Olson, his mechanics smoothed out and confidence in his fastball restored, is the division's premier closer, even after what for him was a mediocre season. Mike Flanagan threw 94 innings and held lefties to a 181 average. Todd Fulworth ate up right-handers, and Storm Davis is throwing as well as he ever has. Johnny Oates proved last year he can handle a bullpen. The Orioles should have plenty of thunder, especially in the new park, as they were the league's second-best slugging team away from Memorial Stadium. Cal Ripken is, well, Cal Ripken. He missed Robin Yount's shortstop extra base hit record by 1. Glenn Davis has virtually missed 2 years, but eventually will return to his power. Mike Devereaux is a triple-double man, and the Sam Horn, Randy Milligan DH platoon should equal last year's DH numbers of 34 homers and 105 RBIs. They're hoping Brady Anderson can give them a legitimate leadoff hitter, something they really need. And they also hope that Chito Martinez's late-season power was the real thing. The new ballpark is a left-handed power hitter's dream. Let's face it, the Orioles' hitting and pitching is predominantly right-handed.
Chris, things are very different. I mean, Cal Ripken is a free agent at the end of the year, and he will go if Eli Jacobs doesn't want to pay him the money. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in this park, tons, but it'll never be quite the same as it was up at that little park on 33rd Street.
No, that park was a lot of fun. I want to go back to something you had in the piece there. Rick Sutcliffe. I mean, he won the Cy Young in '84. Can he be that good? You're saying he looks like that. Really?
He believes it. I mean, he was good last September. He pitched very well in 5 starts in September, and there were 5 or 6 teams that really wanted him. He settled on the Orioles because of the role and the relationship with Mussina, McDonald, and those kids. But he says that now that he's about a year and a half off being operated on and coming back, that the fastball is back to where it was in '84. He really believes he's back to where he can be not a dominant pitcher, but somewhere in that 15, 16 game range. If he is, his influence on the staff will be tremendous.
Well, the Sutcliffe in '84 really threw 4 or 5 different pitches for strikes. Not the Blazers, but the location.
The kids just don't want to follow him because he's the master of starting hitters off 3 and 1.
Yeah, but if he wins, they'll take that as a lead for sure. As we go inside the numbers, one thing that the Orioles had better do if they want to improve this year, Peter, they got to improve in their record of 1-run games, and that's the understatement of the year. Nobody was worse than the Orioles last season in 1-run games. I mean, 18 and 35, there's your reason why the Orioles were nowhere close to being contenders. If they can improve, get over 500, you never know what'll happen. When we return on Baseball Tonight, the rookies who will make their mark. In other words, for whom will the bell?
Got a pretty good ovation when Eddie showed up at the plate the first inning, and he didn't get anywhere near the warehouse, but he did deliver a sac fly to give the Mets a 1-0 edge. Pretty slow going for the Birds offensively until they started to click in the fifth. Glenn Davis get out of the way when he chopped one up the middle. Dave Segui rounds third, and he comes in to score. And the Birds started to ignite the big inning. And they got some big breaks, too. Look out, Magadan. That's a gimme one. Magadan glad they weren't keeping books. Cal comes in, Mercedes behind him, and the Birds put it in the win column, 5-3. But Luis Mercedes didn't stick around much longer than that last run because late tonight he was sent down to Rochester with Juan Bell. So McLemore makes the team. That has to mean Brady Anderson, of course, is the lock for the leadoff. And the Birds still have 3 roster moves to make before Monday's opener. Now, Camden Yards seems like a perfect place to watch a game, but it is not a 10 from the player's perspective. It's not bad, it's just not perfect. Here's Butch Alcindor from field level.
It's a new park, so in keeping with that trend, Eddie Murray found a new way to take batting practice, something the photographers hope won't catch on. What is catching on, though, is Oriole Park at Camden Yards fever, and several players were infected today.
My first impression was, where's my locker? And after I found my locker, then I started to roam around the place. And I think the thing that first caught my eye was the jacuzzi bath in the training room. Ooh, can't wait to get in there.
But I like the way the setup is as far as coming out of the dugout. When you're in between at bats, you can go in there and you can hit in the cage. You can go watch yourself in the video room. And like I said, the facilities are just really good.
As far as the field itself, it seems like it has a good background for hitting. The wind's been blowing in from right, so the ball hasn't been carrying that well so far. It seems sort of like a pitcher's park.
Anytime you build a new stadium, you're not going to get 100% satisfaction. And the turf out there, the warning track is a little tough to deal with. Actually, there's no diving on that whatsoever.
One person who hopes to be around to enjoy the new park is veteran Rick Dempsey, but he still has one more cut to survive this weekend.
I would hate to think that I was going to get released or something from this ball club, but that's always a possibility. But I try to keep it out of my mind as much as I possibly can.
The Birds will play their final exhibition game tomorrow afternoon at RFK. Butch Alcindor, WBAL TV 11 Sports.
And Oriole Park. Stay with us. Babe Ruth's most famous first to Oriole Park at Camden Yards today for an exhibition game between the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Mets. Tickets weren't a real problem today, but for opening day Monday, even with just the Cleveland Indians in town, tickets are rarer than a $20 bill with Peter's picture on it rather than that of Andrew Jackson. Sorry. But it's not just the fact that the ballpark is new. Oriole Park at Camden Yards is a throwback to another era, a kind of a back to the future.
Takes me back to my younger days at the Polo Ground. You could feel Mays running with his back to the infield, chasing down Vic Wertz's long drive. The wall out in right field, that's a little bit of Fenway Park. A little bit of Wrigley Field out there with the scoreboard and the bleachers in center field. But what I like about this is I can see Ebbets Field here now with the stands out here. You're hitting the home runs and the fans are really, all over the ball trying to retrieve the baseball. Well, it's enticing, but it's the wrong way. I couldn't hit it because I'm right-handed, so I couldn't reach that. But it reminds me a little bit of Crosley Field before they put the interstate behind the outfield. They had a building like that running behind the center field fence, and it was very reachable. And I hit one through the second floor window, and you could see it there. It was exciting watching the glass break. So I'm waiting for the day and looking forward to the day that some left-handed hitter hits one through the warehouse windows over there and have the secretary scattering over there wondering what's going on as the place being bombed. Can you imagine sitting right here and being less than 60 feet from home plate? The hitter's right there. Cal Ripken standing up there. You feel like you can almost reach out and touch him. One thing about it, all the newness of this ballpark and everything is new here, except maybe the right field foul pole, but home plate came from Memorial Stadium. This is the one that was left there. And I just have a lot of memories about this. The first run I scored, I stepped on home plate in April when we was playing the Cleveland Indians. I hit Louis Tion for a home run. And that was a ball that went completely out of the ballpark in Memorial Stadium, the only ball to leave the ballpark, completely a fair ball. I remember stepping on this plate right here. And the closer it gets to opening day, I'm sure that I will get those memories and that little feel and the jitters and the butterflies in the stomach. I do every opening day, and it's going to be twice as much, especially being in this great facility.
Baseball Tonight is brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else.
Coming up on SportsCenter, will the Shaq be back? Shaquille O'Neal explains the deal. We'll take you live to the Final Four, where we'll corner Coach K on his matchup with mentor Bobby Knight. The Clippers may have to take a break from their playoff chase. They go against the Jordanaires. Well, the Nets try to help the bad news Bucks feel at home on the road.